Hello everyone and Happy New Year on this first day of January now 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first here on the hazardous weather graphic, we've got blizzard warning continues for the western Arctic coast for gusty winds, blowing snow, low visibilities. I believe that ends at early Friday evening here. And then the blizzard warning for the St. Lawrence Island area and the Bering Strait coast. That's out until 6 a.m. Saturday for winds gusting 55 miles an hour and visibilities down to possibly less than a quarter mile or whiteout conditions. Overnight tonight, that'll actually begin to improve sometime after midnight and then toward tomorrow morning. Otherwise, wind chill advisory out for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, looking for wind chills down to 55 degrees below zero in the windier areas. And you need about, I believe, 15 miles an hour of wind before you start to carry wind chills. And otherwise about the same in the interior there for the Koyukuk Valley, Bettles area, Fort Yukon, Yukon Flats. Wind chill advisory there also for the Tanana area west of Fairbanks, central interior. Again, wind chills running 35 to 55 degrees below zero for tonight into Saturday morning. And a snow advisory or winter weather advisory over the Hyder area towards Stewart there in the southern southeast coast down, you see right under the Ketchikan city there. Off to the east though, Hyder and Stewart for snow tonight, 4 to 6 inches, not enough for a warning, but looking for snow in that area. And for the satellite imagery, you can see all the moisture down there over the southern southeast coast. Precipitation amounts not that great at all with all the cloudiness down there and the system still off the coast. Bulk of the moisture right now is still to the south or staying to the west there with the main low center, a little kind of convective nature of the clouds there off the southern and central panhandle with moisture streaming northward in the form of clouds all the way up in past Skagway, Lynn Canal, Haines. And otherwise, not too bad over southern Alaska. Out west, we've got that weakening front that was pretty active and rather strong and brought 84 mile an hour wind gusts to Cape Newenham at 7 a.m. this morning. Those are coming down all afternoon, still gusting 40 to 50 miles an hour along the southwest coast today. Even lighter winds now during the afternoon for the Alaska Peninsula area. And precipitation not all that heavy at all with the system. Maybe a quarter of an inch water equivalent falling eastern Aleutians, maybe the Alaska Peninsula. And also with the showers out toward Adak and Atka. Winds then kick up again, 40 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts central and western Aleutians there as you get in toward that still pretty intense low center, not as strong, slowly weakening there over the southwest Bering Sea. And then the winds and snow and visibilities, ceilings all coming down St. Lawrence Island as that frontal boundary lifts northward. And again, the blizzard warning out for the remainder of tonight. Cloudy along the Arctic coast up there with not much in the way of any precipitation with those clouds, but clouds up over the upper Yukon Valley. Could be some areas of flurries or very light snow up there, but again, mounts are light, and that's associated with the upper level low, cold polar low dropping southeastward. That's going to bring pretty chilly temperatures. Probably see some lows into the minus 40s up over the northeast interior. During the weekend coming up, not so much Saturday morning, but Sunday morning will be even colder. Otherwise, dry south central Alaska to Kodiak Island. Kodiak picked about 0.15 of an inch, but that was early on. That was like overnight. It's been dry most of the day there. And that front stationary right across the Alaska Peninsula southwest coast, pressing northward a little bit towards St. Lawrence Island. That's going to continue to wash out. You can see today pretty weak there. From about Kuskokwim Bay on down to the Alaska Peninsula, areas of light rain or snow, much lighter winds diminishing, especially along the Bristol Bay area to the Alaska Peninsula. About no gradient, weak ridging there in between the two low centers, one well southeast of Kodiak and then the one farther out to the west. Still at 936 millibars or so. midday today over the southwest Bering Sea, so slowly weakening, but those winds out there are still pretty strong, anywhere 40, 60, probably could still see some 70 plus mile per hour gusts today from Amchitka to Shimianatu. And pretty windy on the western Arctic coast, supporting that blizzard warning that's out for a few more hours there, and then conditions will improve, but not for St. Lawrence Island. Snow and blowing snow this evening, improving slowly after midnight, especially toward tomorrow morning. And increasing precipitation on the Panhandle. Heaviest, best chance on the southern Panhandle, less of a chance up. Probably won't see anything from areas from Juneau on up to Haines, or even Elfin Cove. Definitely dry for the North Gulf Coast, but a few clouds. Dry for Kodiak Island with a few clouds. And for tomorrow, again, possible patchy fog, maybe some flurries thrown in there for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, but whatever falls won't amount to much. And all that cloudiness over the eastern interior due to the upper level low coming from the northeast there to southwest, and that's going to be pulling the colder air in as well. And especially the clear areas will be the coldest, as they usually are, over the central western interior and eventually into the Yukon Flats, especially for Sunday morning. And otherwise dry all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. Chance of some isolated rain or snow for the east side of Kodiak Island, not a sure thing. And again, next system pushing up toward the Panhandle will bring an increasing chance of moisture over the southern areas tonight, late tonight. And still windy and widespread areas of snow or snow and rain mix there for the Aleutians. More showery toward the eastern Aleutians. And for tomorrow, that low continues the weekend now down to 954 millibars. Winds west, but slowly diminishing across the entire Aleutian chain, especially for the Fox Islands, Alaska Peninsula. Real light winds, as well as Bristol Bay. Still pretty windy along the Brooks Range there, especially through the passes with that Arctic ridging colder air building north of the range there. And lighter winds, though, down across the central interior all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. Maybe a few scattered isolated rain or snow showers possible for the east side of Kodiak Island, and the heaviest wind and rain across the southern Panhandle. And then for Sunday, that original system weakens and into a trough lifts northward. Still a pretty good chance of rain and snow, but the next warm front increasing the precipitation late in the day over the Dixon Entrance southern Panhandle. Lighter amounts to the north, dry over interior Alaska, but colder temperatures, especially north of the Alaska Range up to the Yukon Flats. And that low continues to weaken over the Bering Sea. Lows for tonight, anywhere from 20 to 35 below zero, up over the northeast interior, and teens all the way down into Bristol Bay, lower 30s Pribilofs and the Aleutians, and 20s to 30s for the Panhandle. Highs tomorrow, upper 30s, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula. Teens, south central Alaska, below zero from the Tanana Valley northward. And then for the lows the following morning, again, 25 now to 45 below, especially with the north slope, northeast interior areas, and not much warmer for your afternoon highs.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather here for tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. Marginal VFR, north slope, Arctic coast, but VFR there from around Point Lay on down the coastline, all the way down to till you get to the Yukon Delta coast. Marginal VFR there with the IFR and the weakening front still affecting Nunivak Island to St. Lawrence Island. And small area IFR there from Mattu Island and over the west-southwest Bering. VFR Cook Inlet, marginal Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast. Northern Panhandle, IFR, southern southeast coast. And IFR over the eastern interior sort of shifts up to the north a little bit there, but still extends southward to the north slopes of the far eastern Alaska Range. Area VFR, central eastern Copper River Basin, widespread VFR, Tanana Valley down across the Cook Inlet in the western Kenai Peninsula. Eastern Kenai Peninsula, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, marginal. IFR over a good chunk of the Panhandle, especially in the north and off to the east. And marginal VFR, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, all the Aleutians, and much of the Bering Sea, just a couple of small areas of IFR, St. Matthew Island, and then way out there to the west with that continuing to slowly weaken low pressure area. And the North Slope Arctic Coast, IFR. And then for Sunday morning, marginal VFR for the North Slope to the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, also the west side VFR and the central coast. IFR, Yukon Flats, and marginal VFR down into the Tanana Valley. South of the Alaska Range, or across southern Alaska in the interior, we've got from the Yukon Delta coast eastward across the Copper River Basin, VFR. Marginal VFR southern Kenai Peninsula and trying to push into southern Prince William Sound. And then a big batch of IFR there for the southern 3/4 of the southeast coast, marginal for Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, Elephant Cove, but not quite making it to Yakutat, and widespread IFR over the central Bering Sea. And then for the afternoon Sunday, that improves out there with Shimei Attu, especially Attu Island, holding on to the IFR, St. Matthew Island, and up toward Gamble. IFR, but the Purbloss becoming marginal, Aleutians marginal, and lower conditions now over the eastern part of the state with marginal VFR and some IFR thrown in, and then some isolated areas of VFR, it looks like near or north of the central and eastern Alaska range. Eastern North Gulf Coast, northeastern Bristol, or Prince William Sound, IFR across the northern panhandle and then down along the border. And VFR, Cook Inlet, across Kuskokwim Valley, Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, and much of the western interior except for Norton Sound and Bay, and the Nulato Hills about the Yukon. And for flying weather, we've got, for passes, we've got marginal for Anaktuvik and Adigan both. Marginal VFR becomes IFR, possibly on the northern entrance into the afternoon. And again, Adigan, same thing, lower in conditions on the northern side. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR throughout the day tomorrow. Rainy, VFR day, flying either approach, windy, same forecast. And Isabel as well, VFR. Mentasta, though, kind of a different story. Possible marginal VFR northern entrance. Otherwise, VFR through the pass to the south, hopefully. And Tanita, VFR. And Portage, lower conditions, possibly marginal. Eastern entrance, better to the west. And IFR for Chilkoot and White. Looking at the freezing levels at the surface there, all the way up to the Russian Far East coastline there, back down across St. Matthew Island to Cape Newenham, Alaska Peninsula, hugging the North Gulf Coast, cutting through the Panhandle again, 2,000 feet southern Panhandle. Icing, heaviest action of rime, maybe considerable moderate rime, cutting across the southern Panhandle tomorrow, and then lighter, definitely decreasing considerably as you head north there up toward Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay. And then kind of some leftover possible mixed light icing out there over the kind of a widespread area still over the Bering Sea to the central and eastern Aleutians. Jet stream showing southeast flow, that huge upper low there over the western Bering, slowly weakening, westerlies to the south, and the main jet well off the chart there, just coming on south of the Vancouver Island there, so even the 60-knot winds across the Queen Charlotte's lighter over the Panhandle. But northwest, 70 knots, upper level low cutting down into the northeast part, or the eastern Arctic coast there, and low pressure reflection there just north of the Yukon River over the flats, and otherwise a weak high over the southwest interior. In other words, lighter winds, westerlies coming down to 40 to 45 knots over the Aleutians, still about 55 knots at 3,000 feet along and south of the western Aleutians. Otherwise, winds not too bad, maybe 35 knots over over Kodiak. Look for moderate chop again, southeast coast, Yukon Flats, northwest coast and interior, as well as the Aleutians west of Nikolsky.
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide open natural spaces undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to get larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, they'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and global, international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing ice field generally getting pushed westward there with east and northeast winds and more toward the northwest there along the southwest coast. You can see breaking away and thinner ice in along the coastline as the ice extends out to St. Lawrence Island. And from there, we'll move on to the coastal water forecast. Small craft advisories for the south coast of the Panhandle tomorrow with south to southeast winds 25 to 30 knots. Clarence Strait also south 25 knots with 9-foot seas. And the north coast, east winds 30 knots, seas 13 feet. Lynn Canal, look for northerly winds at 25 knots. And Stevens Passage, northeast at 20. Outlook for Sunday. Central northern inside water, southeast winds, not too bad, 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 3 foot seas. Still small craft advisories for Clarence Strait, southerlies at 25, 5-foot seas. Small craft advisories all along the coast from the southeast, 25 to 30 knots with seas running 14 feet in the north coast, otherwise up to possibly 25 feet down south. And for Cook Inlet, light northeast winds tomorrow, northern Cook Inlet, 15 knots, 3-foot seas. Small craft advisories though south of the Forelands, northerly winds up to 25 knots, 8-foot seas. Small craft advisories also Kamishak Bay, north at 30 knots, east at 30 knots for the Barren Islands, western North Gulf Coast, northeast 30. And 11-foot seas from Kamishak Bay for the Barren Islands and the western North Gulf Coast. East 20, still some gale force gusts possible there around Middleton Island. And north 15 for Prince William Sound. Outlook for Sunday, southeast 20 knots, eastern North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound east at 20, northeast 20 for the western North Gulf Coast. Cook Inlet, northerlies 10 to 15 knots, strongest south of the Forelands, 20 knots from the northwest for Kamishak Bay. Small craft advisories for the Barren Islands, north at 25. And for Kodiak Island on the west side, westerlies 25 knots, 13-foot seas. A little stronger Shelikof Strait from the north at 30 knots. Otherwise, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, northwest at 20. Castle Cape to Cape Sarachev, southwest 20 knots. 22-foot seas, though, and south 20 knots on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Bristol Bay, northeast at 15, seas 5 feet. Bring it up to about 20 knots for Bristol Bay on Sunday out of the northeast and 5-foot seas. Southwest 20 knots and 11-foot seas there along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula. Small craft advisories, Cape Sarachev to Castle Cape. West 25 knots and then down to 20 knots on up towards Sitkinak. And Kodiak Island northwesterlies 15 to 25 knots, seas 3 to 11 feet. Unalaska Island, south to southwest, 25 knots tomorrow. And Unmak Island, southwest 30 knots, 20 to 33 foot seas. And for Adak, southwest 40 knots, still pretty good gales there, 25 to 35 foot seas. And then westerlies 40 to 45 knots for Amchitka, Kiska, and Shimei and Attu, with seas 25 to 35 feet. And for Sunday, northwest 30 knots for Shimei and Attu Island, as well as Kiska Island, southwest 30 knots Amchitka, Adak, and Atka, as well as Unmak Island and Unalaska Island, southwest 25 knots, and seas all coming down slowly across the entire area. Southwest coast, east 15 to 20 knots, strongest north of Nunivak Island. Northeast 30 knots, good for small craft advisory, St. Lawrence Island. Small crafts from the southeast at 30 knots for the Pribilofs, east 25, St. Matthew Island. Sunday, Norton Sound, northeast 25, brisk wind advisories there. Gale warning, St. Lawrence Island, northeast 35 knots. Gale warnings also for St. Matthew Island for northeast winds at 35, and north to northeast 25 knot winds along the southwest coast. Lighter for the Pribilofs, southeast of 15. Let's see, central eastern Beaufort Sea coast, east or east-northeast winds 15 knots tomorrow. Brisk wind advisories on the western coast for northeast winds 25. Gale warnings Cape Beaufort to Cape Thompson, northeast 40, and then 30 knot winds from Cape Thompson to Wales. Brisk wind advisories continue from Wales all the way up to Cape Beaufort on Sunday, but light winds on the west side now down to 15 knots and variable 5 to 10 knot winds there for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast. For tonight, again, could see some patchy fog on the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, possibly, but looking for marginal VFR at worst. And variable clouds north slope to the Brooks Range, on down the east side of the interior there into the Copper River Basin. More clearing off to the west. Weakening front along the southwest coast. Winter storm warning ends over St. Lawrence Island tonight and the western Arctic coast as well, with wind chill advisories through tonight for the central interior and eastern Arctic coast for wind chills of 55 below zero. And then for tomorrow, heaviest wind and rain will be over the southern southeast coast. Low continues to weaken out over the western Bering Sea. It dries out along the southwest coast. Much better St. Lawrence Island. Kind of breezy there along and south of the Brooks Range. And for Sunday, even weaker low out there in the Bering Sea.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.